Okay, so it's a difficult question to answer, isn't it? What is the greatest team of the Overwatch League era? Well, the Overwatch League era so far. And I'm going to give my opinion on this today. Now, of course, as ever, this is an opinion. And so, it's not going to be cut and dry. It's not going to be, well, this has to go because this is what this is and this is my opinion, so you have to listen to it. Nope. That is not what this is going to be. This is going to be my opinion. And I think these players have been insane across all years of the Overwatch League, pretty much. And they are the most consistent players across that time period. We've had a lot of players that have popped off in one season and never been seen again. At that level, anyway. But there are some players that have been very consistent and have had their pop-off moments and have basically been essential parts of their team throughout the time they've been there. And some of these players have been at their teams for a goddamn long time. So, let's take a look at this. We're going to name one main support, flex support, main tank, off tank, Hitscan DPS, and flex DPS. And I'm going to give some honourable mentions as well, because I think there are some honourable mentions that are definitely deserved. So, starting off with the supports. Now, flex support is stacked. We're going to start off with main support though, and I had two names on the list. This was Moth, who is going to be my pick. Moth has been super consistent, like Mr. Consistent. You can rely on Moth at the San Francisco Shock and now the Los Angeles Gladiators. I think he was a great pickup for the Gladiators. He may be coming nearer the end of his career, and I think that might be why San Francisco Shock let go of him and brought in FD God. But I still think he's a fantastic player, and he's been essential to that San Francisco Shock team for a long time. He's been there pretty much the entire time. So I think he's not an in-game leader. That's the wrong way to say it. I mean, he is an in-game leader, but he was a very reliable source of enthusiasm and reliability for the San Francisco Shock. And when I was looking at the Shock changing their roster in this offseason, I was like, you have to keep either Moth or Super, because I think they are essential to making this roster work. They ended up keeping Super in the end, which I don't think is a bad idea. And Moth goes to play for the LA Gladiators, and I think he will be essential to them in this up-and-coming up-and-coming 21 season, if I could talk properly. And he is their only main support, so that's an obvious caveat to that. But I think Moth is super good. And I really think, I don't know whether Shock would have not got their titles without Moth, but I think he was a massive part of them getting them. And we can't ignore the fact that Shock are on a two-peat right now. And I think Gladiators are going to be have got an essential asset in Moth. They really, really have. And I think if they not rely on him, but build around him more, I think he could lead this team to actually a lot of success in 2021. Anyway, flex support. There is a bunch of names you can throw into the ring for flex support. There are some that have been at lower teams. They've been great, but never got the chance to hire a team. One of those examples is Karif, but he's not on this list. I've actually got four. So, one is Rouge Hong. The reason Rouge Hong doesn't get it is because, well, he's kind of come to the end of his career now. He was consistent in the Overwatch League, although not mind-blowing, apart from perhaps Season 1, you could argue, but he got messed around a lot in Season 1 by the Soul Dynasty. So when you look at Rouge Hong's heyday, you have to go back to Lunatic High. And when we're discussing the Overwatch League era, Lunatic High doesn't really come into that. Rouge Hong was still fantastic though, and I think he was a very valuable asset to the Soul Dynasty when he was there, and I wish him all the best in his future career while he's in retirement. Anyway, next up, Jonak. Jonak doesn't get it because, well, Jonak did very well in Season 1. He was absolutely insane, hence his MVP award. And his Zenyatta is one of the best in the league and probably still is. However, Jonak's Zenyatta did very well in a heavy Zenyatta DPS meta. And I think Jonak's Ana is okay, but I don't think it's nowhere near the level of his Zenyatta. I think there are other flex supports in the league that are more flexible than Jonak, and we've seen more flex supports come through now. We've seen the likes of Violet and Alarm break through, which are the two next names on this list. And they've kind of taken the mantle from Jonak in some respects. Jonak has a big responsibility in this up-and-coming season as the only remaining member of the old New York Excelsior squad. And he's leading this new New York Excelsior squad, New York, into not unknown territory, but a lot of them haven't played in the league before. And he is the old hat. Yes, Ivy can also be that, but Jonak knows the New York Excelsior inside and out. So he's going to have a lot of weight on his shoulders this season. And it'd be interesting to see how he reacts to that. He's definitely in contention, but I don't think he's going to take the spot right now. Alarm, fantastic flex support. He demonstrated that last season for the Philadelphia Fusion and took them to having one of the best support lines in the league, if not the best. And I don't think a lot of people would argue with that. However, Alarm has not been around that long. And he got promoted from Fusion Uni. He was fantastic on Fusion Uni. But again, we're talking about OWL era and their performance in OWL. Alarm has been outstanding, but he's been outstanding for a year. And so we have to take that into account when we're talking about the greatest in the OWL era, when he's only been in for one of the 3 years. However, I really do think that Alarm could take this spot in years to come. I really do, because he is consistent, he's flexible, and he is very, very, very good. Like, fantastic for Philly. And they are going to need him more than ever this season, in my opinion. I think they're going to rely on their supports a lot, in my opinion. And therefore, I think Alarm is second on this list. But, actually, no, he might not be second. I might put Jenna at second. Anyway, top of this list is Violet. So, Violet's been in the league for approximately 2 years now, with the San Francisco Shock the whole time. 2 years, 2 titles, reliable Violet, insane pop-off potential, and he has been known to carry the Shock at times. He really has. Violet, when I look at Alarm and Violet, I look at the top 2 supports in the league, in the flex supports in the league right now, in my opinion. Although that could change this year with new talent coming in. When I look at them, I compare them and I think Alarm is a little bit more reliable. I think Violet, he can be a little more volatile. He's very, very pop-off though, and I think his pop-off potential is higher than Alarm. So they are very evenly matched though, and I think if anything, Alarm is a bit more versatile than Violet is. But Violet's 2 years have stood testament to his name at the top of the flex support list in the Overwatch League. And I think he thoroughly deserves his title right now. I really, really do, despite him not being in the inaugural season of the Overwatch League. But there are a lot of good mentions that you can include here. However, we are now going to move on to tanks though. So we have a main tank and an off tank. Main tank, it was pretty clear cut for me. There are some, great main tanks in the league. When you look at, Fisher was great mechanically, had issues with teams. Gesture, but I think Gesture can be a little bit inflexible at times. He's god tier on the Roadhog and the Winston, but when it comes to other picks, he can be a little bit shaky from time to time. We have got Fearless and people like that, but again, they're shaky on certain different areas. But I think consistency at the top level is going to go to another Shock player because it's going to go to Smurf. Yeah, I mean, yes, we see Super sub-in on the Reinhardt a lot of the time, but if the Shock did not have Super, I think Smurf would be perfectly serviceable on the Reinhardt. He may not be Super level, but Super is nowhere near the level of Smurf on the things like the Winston and the Orisa, etc. Like, that's for sure, and that's why he can't go over Smurf. I think Smurf is one of the most versatile, if not the most versatile main tanks in the league. I would stand by that. When you look at other teams, you look at Soul, they're swapping in Marvel or Marv 1 and Gesture. When you look, Fearless is not stable, especially not on the ball pick. When you look at, Philly last year with Sado collapsed basically at the end of during the playoffs and did not look great, so you can't really include him either. And with Mano, he's tailed off. Like, he was great in the inaugural season. Dive was his meta, and he dominated. He was probably the best main tank in the league, if not the second best main tank in the league, as a Gesture. But he did tail off, and I don't think he's right up there with the likes of Smurf at the moment in current times, although that could return depending on what the meta is. And again, if your tank is meta dependent, then I can't really say that he's probably the best of the Overwatch League era. So that's why I give this to Smurf, because I think his ability to be flexible on that main tank role, not only that, but be flexible at the highest level, I think outshines pretty much any other main tank in the league. So, alongside him in the off-tank role then, again, there are a lot of mentions you can have in here. So, you've got Void, who has had an incredible season this season, but he's only been massively incredible this season, although he's been in the league for a longer period of time, obviously with the Gladiators before. So, I don't think I can put him in this spot, although he can have an honourable mention. A person that is very close to this spot is Fury, because Fury has been consistent throughout his 3 years in the Overwatch League. He was God tier on the Diva in 2018, and his Sigma has grown a lot since being at the Philadelphia Fusion. He was really good at the Philadelphia Fusion, but had playtime in and out with Poco, so he didn't completely maintain that role. He's now at the Washington Justice. It'll be interesting to see how he does there. I think he is one of the best off-tanks we've seen in the league, that's without a doubt. And I'll be keeping an eye on how he adjusts to life at the Washington Justice. But the person I'm going to put here, it's Choi Hoban. Like, 2 years, 2 titles. Although he did join back in the inaugural season for the Shock, but the Shock was still building during that season, and he made a big difference to the Shock. That's without a doubt, when Krusty came in as well. But throughout the 2 years he spent starting day in, day out for the Shock, he's been amazing, dude. Like, last year, he had a phenomenal display on every single hero he played. In 2020, he was extremely consistent once again. We had a lot of pop-off off-tanks during 2020 when you look at the likes of Void. Hambin at times also did very well. And Choi Hoban, he's still right up there. He's still challenging with them. He's not lost it. He's still looking great. He is most likely the best off-tank we've seen so far. There are people that can challenge that. If Void keeps up his consistency for the Shanghai Dragons, then he will be absolutely fine, and he'll be able to contest with him. But right now, I have to say, top of the pack is Choi Hoban, and has been for a long while, for a good 2 years now, just through consistency and consistent high tier play. Not just consistently good, consistently great. So that's why I have to put Choi Hoban in this spot. And with that, we now move on to our DPS. So, honourable mentions. We're going to go for Hitscan DPS first. And honourable mention here, DM. DM is not in the spot because I don't believe he's that flexible compared to the other people we have on the list. I think DM is the best mechanical aim in the league. Like, pure mechanical. Like, if you were talking CSGO style mechanical aim, he is the best in the league. That's why he wins the Widow 1v1s. But when it comes to actual in-game adaptability and in-game sense and stuff like that, I do think he lags behind some of the other people. So that's why I don't think he's the best hit scan in the league and hasn't been, well, over the time. Striker. Okay, so he's very close here. Striker, Boston Season 1, he was fantastic. His Tracer is insane. Like, really, really good. One of the best Tracers in the world. And then he moves to Shock, shows us the Hanzo, a bit of the Widowmaker at times as well. Striker's a great hit scan player. And I know Hanzo's not hit scan, but with the changes he's had, he kind of is. Striker is an insane player. I really, really do. But I do think there is a player that is better than him. And that's Carpe. Like, we say a lot about Carpe, but if you're looking purely at hit scan DPS players, Carpe, I think, has to be considered the best we've seen in the Overwatch League so far, and has been the best over these 3 years. And the only caveat to Carpe's Overwatch League era is the GOATS meta of 2019. However, he was not on Hitscan DPS then. We have to say that. But Carpe in the inaugural season was fantastic. Double Sniper was his playground, and we have seen Carpe clutch so many times for the Philadelphia Fusion. It is unreal. He has got one of the biggest clutch factors in the entire league, second to only perhaps someone else, who we'll go over in a minute. So I think Carpe deserves this spot. But there are people closing in on Carpe though. There are people closing in on Carpe, and there are people coming up. I am very, very interested to see what Glister does at the Shock this season, because I think he has the potential to be one of the best hit scans in the league. And I think he was great at London last year, and that was on a bad team. So I'm very interested to see what Krusty does at the Shock with him for future reference to good hit scan players. Striker is going to be great as per usual. I don't think we're expecting anything different there. There are plenty of people that are going to be great hit scan players in the league. XE, but he's not really too flexible, I would say, compared to other players in the league. Carpe's got a great Tracer, great McCree, great Ashe, great Widow. He's a great all-around hit scan player and is incredibly great at popping off. But talking of popping off, the flex DPS is a very interesting one. You've got a lot of people that can fit into this spot. Rascal, he's not in the league anymore, but Rascal is one of the best flex DPSs around. Fletter, MVP from last year. Incredible player. Incredible flex DPS. However, I have to give it to Prophet. Prophet is insane. He has played so many heroes over the Overwatch League era. Every single hero he has played. Even going off his comfort DPS to things like the Zarya and the Brigitte. Every single time Prophet has picked up a hero, he has grinded and become one of the best. That is Prophet. It sums him up in a nutshell. He is the player with one of the biggest clutch factors in the entire league. He had it at London. He has it at Seoul. Seoul are reliant on Prophet. We have seen that in the next cup recently, where when they've subbed Prophet out and gone Sabi Yolby Fitz, it's not worked. Because Prophet offers an anchor and a reliable source of pop-off potential, just like Carpe does for the Philadelphia Fusion. Except Prophet is much more versatile in my opinion than Carpe. Prophet has a very big argument to be the greatest Overwatch League player of all time. Very, very big argument for it. And I don't think you can have a greatest Overwatch League team greatest team of the Overwatch League era if you do not include Prophet. Because he is insane. Absolutely insane. We always go on about playoffs Prophet. He's consistent throughout a regular season, even when London weren't doing well in 2019. When it was GOATS. Birdring was having his troubles. Gesture wasn't looking great on the Reinhardt. It was Fury, yes, but Prophet. Whatever he was on. And London decided for some reason to run Birdring on the Zarya, I think, and Prophet on the Brigitte. Prophet looked great. But then when it was switched around and Prophet went to the Zarya, I believe, Prophet, again, was great and had extreme carry potential on Zarya, a hero that he was not used to playing. He grinded it, he got good, and he was one of the best flex players, and still is one of the best flex players the Overwatch League has ever seen. And he will be in the non-existent Overwatch League Hall of Fame, because he's playoffs Prophet. He is playoffs MVP from Season 1. He has arguments for being on lists of MVPs that he's not been on. And he is possibly the biggest clutch player in the league. That's the way it is. And I don't think you can have this list without Prophet. But there are some great players that can really contend for this role at times. So when we look at Fletter and people like that, they are insane. They are insane, and Rascal. But Prophet just has it for me over everyone. Even these days with him at Seoul. They are reliant on him, he is reliable, and he pops off time after time. Anyway, I will be leaving it here for this one. So, my greatest Overwatch League team, well, the greatest team of the Overwatch League era, that's what I should say, and we've had 3 years of it now. Moss, Violet, Smurf, Joy Coben, Carpe, and Prophet. With honourable mentions to Alarm, Toby, Jonak, Rouge Hong, Striker, DM, Fletter, Rascal, and then Fury, etc. We've had a lot of honourable mentions in this one as well. But I really think these players are insane. And if you saw that squad on one team, you would be scared. Very, very scared. Anyway, I will be leaving it here for this one. Don't forget all socials are linked in the video description below. Great support on the channel as always. I'm really astonished with how much support the channel is getting recently. Don't forget to subscribe. If you are new around here, I'd be very grateful for that subscription, and if you also turn on that bell and you'll know when these videos come up pretty much every 2 days at the moment, although we've had a little run of 3 days straight with videos. Anyway, I will be leaving it here for this one, so thank you guys so much for this video. If you'd like to give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.